So I would say the market is there for the locals. Come in. We need more local chefs. I think we are getting outnumbered. We need much more local chefs to represent our food and our culture.
Welcome back to Pushing Your Peers podcast, the #1 podcast in the region for living a progressive and happier life. Today's guest is a true flavor master and fitness warrior, Chef Donvonno Cox. From cooking meals as a teen to leading one of the most exciting culinary ventures in the Turks and Caicos Islands, his journey is full of resilience, reinvention, and real talk. We dive into how the pandemic sparked his business breakthrough, the story behind Harbor House and Eatery, and his inspiring transformation, both in the kitchen and the gym. Sit back, relax, and let's get ready to push some peers. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Chef Cox or Pushing Your Peers podcast. I'm really excited for this episode, ladies and gentlemen, because Chef Cox, I love, he's one of my most favorite pages on Instagram because, for one, his food look good. I've tasted his food at numerous of times through catering events. And two, he's on a fitness journey, the same type of journey I'm on. So now he has food and fitness. I think you guess no better than that.
Food and fitness. Yes, your choice.
But
so you could have the big back food, or you could have the fitness food.
Boom, you see it.
Yes.
But I am excited to have Chef Cox on the show. And Chef Cox, I want to start with that journey right there. You becoming a chef. How did that start?
So it all began, I would say, as a teenager, having the opportunity to prepare food once a week. I would say, because growing up with my foster parents in North Caicos, you know, my foster mom would be out like every Wednesday. They would do Bible study on another island. So we lived in North, but their Bible study would be based. He pastored a circuit of churches in Middle Caicos. So every Wednesday they would go over to Middle Caicos. So that would leave me and my other siblings, of course, the opportunity to prepare something to eat. So I would be the one that would always say, all right, I can cook something. And that of which would always be fire engine and white rice. That's where it all began. And I remember moving from corned beef and white rice. I think I had the best corned beef that anybody have ever prepared. That was my specialty.
Okay.
And then I moved from that to preparing a little more things. Pastelitas. I went on to trying the peas and rice. You know, different little options that I think I could have managed. And then, you know, of course, you know, I realized, I say, wow, I didn't know that I really had this gift. It was just like it was there, just waiting to pop. And I remember during the pandemic, I had lost my 9-to-5. And then, of course, being a provider, you know, I have a wife and 2 boys, you know, being the father and the head of the house. I say, you know, I can't just sit here and, you know, not do nothing. You know, I have to do something. And then that put me, you know, to saying, okay, go ahead and, you know, do what you enjoy. And I remember in the pandemic releasing my first menu. So I would have been off my 9-to-5 job that Tuesday. And on Wednesday, I had a full-time menu running, right?
Okay.
You know, this happened so fast. So I would all say it started as a teenager, and then, of course, it, you know, when the opportunity presented itself, you know, I was like, okay, let me do it. And, you know, I remember, you know, the business going from just a pop-up menu right on to catering services. That is catering to gas, you know, and I just watch it blossom. So what would have been a setback for many during the pandemic was actually a plus for me. You know, that's where my gift it blossomed, you know. I just watch it grew from small right up to where it's at right now. And if anyone know Harbor House, they know that's a company that provides great service and excellent food. So, I would say that's where it started, and now it's on to something great.
You know, I look at COVID-19 and I've had so many guests that
Uh-huh.
they've come on the show, they talk about entrepreneurship, and they've
Hmm.
talked about COVID-19 being the reason why they became entrepreneurs. And
Yes.
that pandemic, it took a lot from us. A lot of us lost close relatives, and that's the bad part about it. But I would say COVID-19 was the catalyst for
Hmm.
entrepreneurship, not only in the Turks and Caicos, but globally, because a lot of people, and it's great to hear and see that you are also one of those persons who would have been a product of that entrepreneurial wave that came out of
Hmm.
COVID-19. Now let's talk about culinary arts. In the Turks and Caicos Islands.
Hmm.
Uh, uh, what what would be your legacy that you're building right now in that area? Like, how would you want Chef Cox to be remembered in the culinary field in this country?
I would say for me, you know, I am providing good quality food, good tasting food. That's my key thing. I would want to be remembered, just saying that, hey, this gentleman, provided good quality tasting local food, and just being able to see smiling faces, when they already eat their food. That's what I want to know, that, I have been able to make someone happy through food. And also, being able to, see guests, travel to Turks and Caicos and say, hey, I had Chef Cox food, I had Harbor House food, and it was amazing. So that is something that I would want to be remembered for, providing good quality food, good tasting local food. Yes, so
Amazing.
that would
And
be it.
what is your favorite dish to prepare?
I would say anything considering soups or rice, loaded rice. That's my thing. Conch stew is, to be honest, one of my favorite meals to prepare. I think now conch chowder is taking over that, but
Hey,
I love to prepare a soup, or any sort of flavorful rice. That is codfish and rice, okra and rice. I would say I'm a rice specialist or a soup specialist.
amazing.
So that is just some of my favorite dishes. Yeah.
Now, Chef Cox,
Hmm.
you entered the entrepreneurial field of culinary arts, right? Can you
Hmm.
tell us some of the challenges you had to overcome in your first few months of being an entrepreneur in this field?
I would say some of the challenges, of course, would be, being a chef. Sometimes you want to, purchase certain items, and of course, sometimes the availability of items can be limited,
Mm,
um, throughout the grocery stores. Like you wanna prepare a dish, and it might call for one ingredient, and that's the store just doesn't have it because they don't provide that one thing. Or even sometimes I would say the cost of groceries has been a challenge. It's just very expensive. When I first started out, um, I recognize, but now I'm kind of adjusted to cost. It's like now like an everyday thing. Like, all right, you already know that's the cost. It's either you pay it or you don't pay it.
right.
But as a local entrepreneur, I would say, just having the startup, and I was privileged to be able to basically get my startup from just having a little savings aside.
Mm,
But that was to me, I would say, some of the challenges were just really, you know, in some people's cases, they might not be able to have like a little saving aside, but I was able to have something aside that I could have actually, inject into the business to get the basic things started. and
mhm.
and step by step, as the business grew, I just started to increase my inventory, where need be. But that's really the only challenges. I would say. But in terms of support, I must say that I cannot knock the local population. I mean, when I tell you, I have been getting support from day one, from the inception of the business. It started out with the community. I remember starting in Long Bay. It started out with the community of Long Bay supporting, and then it just branched out. The rumors got on the street, and word got out. People were sharing the flyers. I must say that I've been overwhelmed by the support of local people to my business. A lot of the referrals that I've gotten over the years, in terms of gas, referring for gas services and so forth, concierges, local concierges, referring me, just say, hey, we have the chef that can provide, good local food to you, so,
Right.
I must say that the community was very supportive. I can't even say that they did not support Harbor House. And even up to today, they are still behind me for some pop-up menus, that of which, has been a little challenge to execute at this time due to my load of caterings and the private chef market. But, I want them to know that I haven't forgotten them. Something is in the pipeline for the local people.
Amazing.
I am coming. Yes.
Well, I looking forward to that too. You add me to the list.
All right.
But
Good, good.
I love how you talked about local support because
Hmm.
oftentimes when we start our businesses, um, that's a concerning thing, But Chef Cox, I can honestly just seeing you on the show, I can see why you're well supported. I think you have fantastic energy, and what I've heard you say numerous times during this interview is that you're looking to please the customer, please your guest,
Yeah.
go above and beyond for them, and you want them to feel a certain type of way. And I think for persons looking to start a business, that's what they should focus on. Just listening to you drop those gems earlier. You know,
Yeah.
you talk now. Let's talk about culinary market, the industry itself.
Hmm.
Is there opportunities? Because oftentimes, when we get into certain industries, we hear about these so-called gatekeepers, right? But have you
Hmm.
felt like gatekeeping has been going on in your journey, or I mean, is there avenues for local chefs to come inside here and be as successful as you are right now?
Most definitely, I would say the market is wide open.
Okay.
I definitely encourage local chefs to come on board. Like I say, there are some challenges in terms of, I would say sometimes when you look at it, we can be outnumbered.
Mm,
And I think when it as it relates to some local chefs in the market might be a bit discouraged because um, you know, you might not get the bookings that you're looking for because, of course, when you go into the cater the private chef market, from the private chef market standpoint, that is based on referrals. So sometimes if the concierge itself decides that they're not gonna recommend your services, that can be the only challenge,
yeah.
I would say, because it all go based on referrals. And even now today, I would tell you, really and truly, it's not even only based on referrals because it's how much you put into your business in terms of marketing.
Mm,
Because I've recognized now more than referrals, it's marketing, it's TikTok, it's Instagram, it's Facebook, and people now they want visuals. And I've recognized that that is so much more important than waiting for someone to refer your services.
right.
Because now, like the other day I cooked for some guests, a party of 14, and the lady was like, chef, you can really cook. She said, to be honest, your page doesn't do your food justice. And I was like, whoa, like that reminded me. And I came home and I told my wife, I was like, we really have to, pump more into social media. I mean, even though, because my wife is my marketing manager, she does an excellent job. But when you talk about pushing it to the next level, everything is visual.
Yeah.
I might now need to look at getting a camera guy to follow a videographer. You might know the right name, but
I know.
someone to just be around in the kitchen with me,
Yeah.
taking pictures, taking videos, and, which might cost your little business much more money, but it is so worth it. So I would say there is room. You just have to be passionate and willing to invest time, energy, and finances. Marketing play a big role in the growth of your business. So I would say the market is there for the locals. You come in. We need more local chefs. I think we are getting outnumbered. We need much more local chefs to represent our food and our culture. I'm encouraging the guests every time they send me menu, and I'm encouraging them to, come eat like us, eat our food,
Yes.
eat local, and most of them, sometimes it's a challenge because they want their standard American food, the bacon, the eggs, and, and I'm like, why not try some peas and grits and some fried fish and, and some hash turbot.
Yeah.
And they're like, what is that? Or, try some conch stew. And they say, conch? What is conch? They call it conch.
Yeah.
But, it's just important to keep presenting that, But I do feel I want to make mention, because this thing keeps ringing at me. I want to make mention. I do believe that one of the discouraging things for local business people in the Turks and Caicos is being able to cover overheads. I had the opportunity of starting at my home, but a lot of entrepreneurs might not have that opportunity.
Right.
So I would say, I'm representing the culinary field. I would say I would definitely recommend the government to be able to open up some sort of like vendor booths, something that is affordable, whether it's daily or weekly. Open up some vendor booths and be able to allow young entrepreneurs to come out there with their talent and sell and sell to the tourists. Because when you look at it, when I say sell to the tourists, locals will come as well. But just like what we have at Fish Fry,
right?
Let's have that every day. Let's have that every day. The other day I was just looking to get some dry conch, and it was almost impossible to find it right here in Provo. Why can't we have access to these things daily? And to me, I would love to see that. We should have one spot in Providenciales where you can always find these things. You can always find some chicken sauce. You could always find some stew conch. You could always find the local thing. And I say that from a point of view of cost. When you look at cost factor, to be honest, I don't have a restaurant, but every time I shop around to say, where am I going to open this restaurant, it's sometimes discouraging that part, because the cost of rent and so forth, that is a challenge that most entrepreneurs, they run from. When you look at, I would say, I always reference the Bahamas, and when people in the Bahamas they can tell me, boy, I found a place for 500. I found a place for 550. I'm like, what? If I had a place, I would have had 2 restaurants open in Provo. It's just being able to set up somewhere that is affordable, that you don't have to spend $3,000 in rent,
right,
just to promote your product. So that there, I should have mentioned that earlier, but I don't know if somehow I forget. But that there, I would say, I would love to see throughout the Turks and Caicos, or Providenciales, because this is where the majority of us live. I would love to see affordable booths that vendors can come out daily, whenever you want to come out, and that is open every day. So if you're going to charge $50 a day, whatever the price is, make it affordable to give the little man an opportunity to get their product rolling.
Yes. Chef Cox, you've said a lot, and I think if you're listening to this video, make sure send this to some of your government officials because this is a brilliant idea. Whoever, if you're listening to this video right now, forward this to your AMP because this is a brilliant idea cooked up by Chef Cox. I love it. It kind of reminds me of fish fry in the Bahamas. I mean, if you've been
Yes, that's
the Bahamas.
that's what we need.
Yeah,
Yeah.
say because I remember a trip to the Bahamas. You say let's go to the fish fry. I'm thinking it's an event like like ours.
Yeah.
When you get there,
Hmm.
is exactly how you describe it. Maybe not to that level where there's affordable booths, but there's a place, a strip of just local restaurants and local eatery. And
And that's what we
that's
need.
what.
It would encourage it will encourage the entrepreneurs in the Turks and Caicos to come forward. Believe it or not, a lot of entrepreneurs are out there. They're just hiding behind, boy, I don't know how I can get this product out there. They don't want to sell from behind their cars or, out of their house. You know,
Yes.
local entrepreneurs. I would love to see that for our local people.
Yes.
I mean, when you look at fish fry, of course we know it's not, all local, but we need somewhere
That's for us.
for us, for we.
For food. Right. Indeed. Indeed. I've been on this phenomenal fitness journey for the past 3 years. And you're basically what the young people would say on being your back. Right? I
Hmm.
mean, tell us, what inspired this journey?
Yeah, so like I said, during the pandemic, I had gained a significant amount of weight between enjoying desserts every night to cooking whatever we wanted to eat as a family. And then after entering the business, as an entrepreneur, one man band show running, I worked a significant amount of hours. I would say sometimes about 16 to 17 hours a day in the kitchen. And, during that period, I gained a significant amount of weight. I would say the heaviest I've ever been. And, of course, during that time, I was, it was just I was tired. It, you know, I was just overwhelmed with, all that was happening, of course, as a new startup business. And, like I say, the weight was just packing on. And I say, you know what? I need to take control of this. So I remember starting to do like the full loop. I call it the full loop walks. It was like 6 miles. Me and my brother, Dev, and we would start. Like anytime I get like a free day or two, I'd say, hey, let's do the walk. So we would do the loop from Long Bay, outside of where I used to live in Long Bay, straight around IGA and come back up the Long Bay route. So I would do that every time I could have. But of course, you do that and then you go home and you eat another big plate of food. So that wasn't that wasn't doing much good, So I felt like, wow, ain't nothing working. And I remember just going and just saying, hey, I'm gonna do a little physical just to check everything. And I remember my doctor telling me that, your cholesterol was a bit elevated and also your pressure was a bit elevated. And I remember just going home and saying, I need to make a change. I remember going home and just saying, I'm not eating this, I'm not eating that. I need to, so I started to take it much more serious. I remember I saw a trainer online, um, and a local trainer, and I had sent him a message and I say, what's the process to get started with you? I need some help, man. And I remember us doing our very first workout. And so I hired a personal trainer for the first 3 months. And I mean, that, of course, we, we were just doing walks. We were doing, he introduced me to so many different, cardio exercises and, try to encourage me with different ways and measures. So the local entrepreneur that I used was Cam, God Cam. Mizik from Camo Fitness. I must shout him out. Big up to you, Cam. He was the first one to really get me started in terms of, get serious behind it. And I remember, within that 3 months of me working out with him, I saw, I saw a change. I was like, wow, I really can do this. And after the 3 months of having him, I was like, okay, I think I'm kind of on my way now. I understand, some of the basics, of course, the push, the pull, the legs days, the cardio days, and then I had encouraged. I remember I was his very first client in Turks and Caicos, by the way. And I remember after people start seeing the weight going for me, they was like, boy, what's going on? Like, who's helping you? Like, who's helping you? And I told them, so I was like, this is where I'm getting my help. And we started, and I remember, I would tell him, man, listen, I'm tired of going in the gym. Let's go walk on the road. Let's go on the beach. And I remember him recording our very first workout on the beach. And, I shared it on my Instagram, and then inquiries started coming in, like, how can I reach this guy? I would like to get started. And, it just went from there. And after me, I think I had lost my very first 20 pounds or so with him. So that was like big to me. I was like, whoa, I coming down, started to feel better about myself. And then I remember, after, like, I started to be confused in terms of eating. I was like, okay, the workout is working, but I think I need to fix my eating a bit more. And I remember hiring a nutritionist. I remember hiring a nutritionist. Shout out to you, Nicole. Nicole was very instrumental with guiding me on how to eat. I've learned so much from her. I hired her for about 6 months. And within that 6 months, I mean, I lost like maybe about 40 pounds of following her strict regimen of how to eat, introducing certain different fasting times. The whole thing, it was kind of like very strict, and being a chef, I would tell her, oh, sorry, I had to taste some macaroni today because I had a big macaroni for my customers. But she would always say, don't worry, once you won't eat it, if you just taste it, it's all right. So that was kind of a challenge at the beginning, but I mastered it. And I remember her telling me after the 6 months, she was like, Cox, I need to help some other people who really need help. Like, you graduate now, you good, you could go. And she put me on my way. And from there on, I would say I have been just, doing my own thing. Of course, I've met up with many people in the industry who, I would see in the gym, and I would say, hey, I'm going to work out with you today. Or, or sometimes vice versa, they'll be like, hey, I come and work out with you. And I'm like, boy, I don't even know if I could train anybody, but we just, make it fun. And I've built such a great gym family throughout the Graceway IGA. Shout out to IGA. That's my second home, Graceway Center. If I'm not in my kitchen, I'm there, right? And then, of course, I found a love for running. And I recognized that, boy, the running was really, it was really helping me to shred, right? And after doing the loops every Saturday, I was like, I've been walking this thing for so long. Why not start running this? And I remember just started to walk, run, and then it just took off from just me being able to. I think the very first time I ran that full loop was with you guys.
Okay.
With the Road Dogs. Shout out to the Road Dogs.
Appreciate
that's the very first time. And I remember Reno on the side of me saying, Cox, you could do it. And I say, boy, my legs feel so heavy. Because I would run, walk. But that day I ran the whole thing. And, I must say, from that day, it made me recognize that, you can do this. And I say, imagine me running 6 months. Like, I can't believe it, you know. But yeah, by the way, I need to join the Road Dogs. Let me know what I got to do to
Say
join.
less, brother. Say less. We can talk after this for sure.
Yes, yes. Okay,
Man,
good.
Chef Cox, I just want to thank you for sharing your fitness journey with us. I don't want to go too in
Thank,
depth with it. I think persons can reach out
okay.
to you. Your handle
Yeah.
will be right there for them to reach out to you and talk more about it. But thank
Yes.
you so much for coming on the show and sharing your journey, sharing your fitness journey. And one of the things I took from that fitness journey was your
Hmm.
village that you built. You talked about
Yeah.
reaching out to Mizik and Nicole and all these individuals. You even talked about the road dogs. And what I've heard with that part of the interview is that it took a village. It took a village
Yeah.
to get you there, and
Yeah.
you talk about the early segment of you being well
Hmm.
supported. It took the support.
Yeah.
So when I look at you, Chef Cox, I see someone that embodies the culture of the island. The
Yes.
village component of the island, the community of the Turks and Caicos Islands. And I just want to thank you for being such a great ambassador in the culinary field. And of course, I will give you an opportunity now to plug in
Hmm.
your business right now on the platform.
Yes. All right. So, Harbor House and Eatery, that's the name of my business. I am the head chef and owner of Harbor House. We are a catering business. We do catering, we do private chef services. So we can cater from a small event right up to a large scale event. Um, we are the best at what we do.
Ah,
All right. And I could tell anybody that we have a great reputation for good food. We have a great reputation for being on time. You know, we get the job done. I also want to make mention of my beautiful wife. She is the co-owner of Harbor House and marketing manager, who also does a phenomenal job. So it's not only me. It's a duo. It's both of us. We execute,
love it.
and also my other staff that help to push us out, help to execute and make sure that everything is done in a timely manner. So yeah, so I have grown. So it's not only me. Now it's the business that has expanded. So God has been good, and I'm grateful to have that business running, functioning, and it's a blessed business. Thank you.
Amazing. Amazing. Now, we ain't done yet. We got two more things to do before we wrap up this show.
All
The
right.
first thing is push your peers. You wouldn't be a guest on the Push Your Peers
Mm-hmm.
podcast show if you didn't get to push your peers. So any word or
All right.
words that begins with the letter P that has been inspirational or motivational to your journey, you now have the opportunity to push your peers. Any word or words that begins with the letter P.
Huh. Yes, I would say prioritize.
Okay.
That's my word. And I say prioritize because in this business, it's important to do that, of course. And I say prioritize because when you look at all that's going on around, but if you want to build your business, you got to put things into order, prioritize what's important. That is one of the key things to growing your business. So pushing your piece, prioritize. That's the word I put for that. It's
Amazing.
important to set order in your business.
Amazing. Last question, Chef Cox.
Uh,
Wow. So weird question.
to see Hardy.
So weird question. Every guest gets to answer a weird question. What's
Uh-huh.
the strangest food that you most
Mm.
enjoy to eat or prepare,
The strangest food that I had to
or
prepare.
even enjoy eating? I know some people put ketchup in weird places. You know what? I ain't gonna give you no idea.
Oh,
Let me let you.
nah, boy. No, Lord. That's a hard question. What is the strangest food I ever eat?
or even
Hmm.
enjoy preparing? You still you I
Now,
see you using your
now,
lifeline. You use your lifeline.
listen, listen. I don't even. That's a difficult question because I mean, as a chef, you just peer. I peer things so well.
Okay,
Mm, that is difficult.
okay. Anything you've ever
Um,
consumed? I mean, you got some.
yeah, I've had some alligator fritters before. I ain't cook it though, but I had it,
Okay, we'll take that. We'll take that.
and it was good. It was
And I
good.
hear alligator tastes like chicken.
Yeah, boy, that was good. Nice and tender.
But
Yes, I did.
ladies and gentlemen, I'll take that. I'll
Hmm.
take that answer. Ladies and gentlemen, we've had Chef Cox on the Pushing Your Peas podcast show, and one of the things we've heard most from Chef Cox is that he has built his business through the support of this country, the people of this country, and he's not only gotten the support of the country, he's also reached out to persons to help him on his fitness journey. So it's going both ways. I I I would say he is a great ambassador for the field of culinary arts, and he has brilliant ideas. I hope this video is shared with the AMPs because this man has a plan. All right.
Yes, yes. If they need to reach me, they know how to reach me. I got much more there, much more where that come
All
from.
right. All right. So, LPs, you've heard it. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Chef Cox, thank you so much for coming.
Yes.
And we'll
All right.
see you guys next week on Pushing Your Peace Podcast.